Something big is brewing in the corridors of global power, and the stakes are higher than anyone dares to admit in public. On the surface, it's just another high-level meeting between two world leaders, Donald Trump, back in the Oval Office for his second term, and Vladimir Putin, the calculating Russian president who has played geopolitical chess for decades. But beneath the handshakes and formal smiles lies a tangled web of power, mistrust, and hidden agendas that could change the direction of world events. The trigger? A seemingly routine executive order Trump signed just yesterday, one that officially designates the Russian Federation as a material threat to the national security of the United States. If that sounds like a contradiction, meeting a leader you've just labeled a national security threat, you're not alone in thinking it's bizarre. Many are asking, why even meet at all? And what's really going on behind the scenes? To understand the tension, we need to rewind. This isn't the first time Trump has been in this position. During his first presidency, intelligence agencies had already established their official assessments. Russia is a threat, China is a rival, and both must be handled with strategic caution. These findings weren't some backroom political plot. They were detailed, carefully researched, and presented as hard intelligence, the kind of reports that don't change just because a new president takes the oath of office. So what's different now? The short answer: nothing. The intelligence assessments remain exactly the same. And yet, by signing that executive order, Trump essentially tied himself to a narrative that makes warm relations with Moscow almost impossible, at least in public view. Privately, insiders believe Trump doesn't actually see Russia as a genuine threat in the same way the CIA frames it. But here's the problem. Instead of openly challenging the status quo, Trump has once again conformed to it. He's stepping into a playbook written by others, a playbook he didn't create, but one he's now obliged to follow. Given this reality, why would Putin even bother showing up to the table? Think about it. While Trump signs orders labeling Russia a danger, U.S. intelligence agencies continue providing weapons, missiles, and other tools of war to forces actively fighting Russian troops. To Moscow, that's not just hostile, it's lethal. Historically, negotiating with someone funding a war against you is, let's say, unusual. And yet, here we are. Some observers compare Trump's approach to that of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is often engaged in talks with leaders while simultaneously pursuing aggressive military actions against them. It's a high-stakes gamble, one that risks collapsing before any meaningful agreement is reached. Here's where it gets interesting. Russia has never completely shut the door on dialogue with Washington. Even during the Biden administration, when tensions were at their peak, Moscow signaled that it was willing to talk. It wasn't the Kremlin that refused contact, it was the White House that said, "No, we will not speak to you. We are morally superior to you, and because you are bad, we can't talk to you." That moral high ground stance may have played well to certain political bases, but it effectively froze any chance of reducing tensions. With Trump back in office, the door is at least cracked open again. The Russians are pragmatic. They know Trump's style, impulsive, short-term, obsessed with personal wins rather than long-term strategies. They're not naive about it, which raises the question, what does Russia actually want from this meeting? Let us be clear. Putin isn't flying in to toast a new era of U.S.-Russia friendship. This is about testing the waters for something much bigger. Back in 2021, before the war in Ukraine even began, Russia sent the United States a set of formal proposals. These weren't random demands. They were detailed plans for a new security architecture in Europe. At the time, Washington brushed them off. Then came February 2022, and the conflict erupted. Now, years later, the Kremlin might be ready to revisit those proposals, but with an expanded agenda. Today, Moscow's strategic concerns go beyond Europe. They're looking south, toward the Middle East and Southwest Asia, where U.S. and Israeli operations are stirring unrest along Russia's southern borders. From Azerbaijan to other flashpoints, the Russians see a pattern. The West is pushing chaos closer to their doorstep. If the Russians are thinking long-term, Trump is almost certainly thinking about optics. For Trump, the holy grail of this meeting would be to walk out in front of the cameras and declare, "I brought Zelensky and Putin together. I made peace. Nobody else could do it. Only me." It's classic Trump, turning diplomacy into a personal branding opportunity. But here's the catch. Moscow doesn't even see Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as a legitimate counterpart anymore. In their eyes, he's irrelevant to serious negotiations. That means Trump's dream photo op is already dead on arrival. So if peace talks are a non-starter, what's really happening? There's a bigger chessboard at play here. The Russians might see value in using this meeting to gauge U.S. intentions on multiple fronts: Ukraine, NATO expansion, sanctions relief, and even covert operations in regions sensitive to Russian security. Trump, on the other hand, might view the meeting as a tool to showcase himself as a global dealmaker, regardless of whether any concrete agreements are reached. Both sides are playing to their strengths, and both sides know the other is doing exactly that. Here's the part that should make everyone pay attention. These kinds of meetings are not just symbolic. They can also shift the momentum of ongoing conflicts, sometimes in dangerous directions. If Trump miscalculates and makes a concession without securing something tangible in return, it could embolden Moscow. If Putin senses weakness, he could use it to push further into areas where U.S. influence is already fragile. And if the talks collapse entirely, both leaders could walk away blaming the other, hardening positions on both sides and making future dialogue nearly impossible. Some will dismiss this as another media stunt, but they'd be missing the bigger picture. We are at a point in history where the United States, Russia, and China are circling each other in a complex triangle of rivalry, suspicion, and limited cooperation. One wrong move, one misread signal, could set off a chain reaction with consequences that go far beyond Ukraine or NATO. In that sense, this meeting isn't just about Trump and Putin. It's about testing whether the world's most powerful nations can still find a way to talk before they reach a point of no return. Trump's second term was always going to be a high-wire act in foreign policy. His instincts pull him toward showmanship, quick wins, and public declarations of victory. Putin's instincts pull him toward long-term strategy, careful positioning, and exploiting every weakness in his opponent. When these two sit across from each other, we're watching two entirely different games being played on the same table. The question is whether either will walk away with more than just a photo. For the rest of us, this isn't background noise. This is the front line of a geopolitical struggle that could shape the next decade. And it's happening right now, behind closed doors, where the world can only guess at the real conversation. If you want to understand the stakes, remember this. Leaders don't meet just to chat. They meet because something big is on the line. And when Trump and Putin shake hands this time, the world won't just be watching, it will be holding its breath.